Horror fans often revisit the classics, and for good reason. Many films from the 1960s still hold up today, delivering eerie atmosphere, sharp storytelling, and moments that linger long after the credits roll. Here are 9 standout horror films from the era that continue to leave a lasting mark. Set in 1828 Edinburgh, The Flesh and the Fiends tells the chilling true story of surgeon Dr. Robert Knox, who conducts anatomical research at a time when only the corpses of executed criminals could legally be used. To keep his supply steady, he turns to 2 petty criminals, William Burke and William Hare, who begin robbing graves and soon escalate to cold-blooded murder. Over 10 months, they killed at least 16 people, selling the bodies for science. Rather than relying on gore, the film leans into grim atmosphere, moral ambiguity, and raw performances, especially from Donald Pleasance. It's a stark, unsettling look at how easily human life can become just another transaction.
That's what he come here for.
In 1692, a woman named Elizabeth is accused of witchcraft and burned at the stake in the small town of Whitewood. Before her death, she strikes a deal with the devil, securing eternal life in exchange for spreading evil. Centuries later, a college student named Nan, fascinated by stories of medieval witchcraft, travels to Whitewood and checks into a strange, shadowy hotel. She soon discovers that the quiet town is hiding a sinister secret. Despite its misleading original title, The City of the Dead is all about witches, curses, and eerie atmosphere. Shot on a limited budget, it makes the most of its moody lighting, fog-drenched sets, and unsettling tone. And Christopher Lee is unforgettable as the enigmatic professor, who may know more than he lets on.
Burn, witch, burn, witch, burn, burn, burn.
In a dark corner of 17th century Moldova, a young princess is condemned by inquisitors for practicing witchcraft. As punishment, they drive spikes through a metal mask and hammer it onto her face before burning her alive. But before death, she places a blood curse on her executioners and their descendants. 2 centuries later, a pair of travelers unknowingly break the seal on her tomb and awaken the vengeful spirit. Black Sunday marked Mario Bava's directorial debut and helped define Italian Gothic horror. Filmed in stark black and white, its eerie visuals, hypnotic camera work, and bleak tone were ahead of their time. Barbara Steele delivers a haunting dual performance, playing both the tormented princess and her innocent descendant. Though overlooked on release, the film is now recognized as a milestone in stylish, atmospheric horror. In a quiet seaside town, a young sailor named Johnny meets a mysterious woman named Maura, who performs as a mermaid at the local carnival. But their romance takes a strange turn when Johnny begins to suspect that Maura might not just play a mythical creature. She might actually be one. As full moons approach, men around her begin to disappear. Nighttide blends horror with fantasy and dreamlike surrealism, creating a mood that's more unsettling than outright terrifying. The oceanfront setting, eerie carnival visuals, and slow burn pacing give the film an off-kilter, almost hypnotic quality. It also marks Dennis Hopper's first starring role, long before his breakout in Easy Rider. Though underseen in its time, Nighttide has grown into a cult favorite for fans of atmospheric, poetic horror that leaves you wondering what was real and what wasn't. After surviving a car accident, Mary Henry relocates to a small town for a fresh start and takes a job as a church organist. But something isn't right. She begins seeing a pale-faced man watching her from the shadows, and the people around her act as if she doesn't exist. Drawn to an abandoned lakeside pavilion, she starts to question whether she ever truly survived at all. Made on a shoestring budget, Carnival of Souls was the only feature film from industrial filmmaker Herc Harvey, but it became an underground classic. Despite its amateur cast and limited resources, the movie delivers a haunting dreamscape filled with surreal imagery and creeping dread. Its eerie organ score, offbeat editing, and slow sense of disorientation helped pave the way for psychological horror in the decades that followed. A group of strangers gathers at Hill House, a mansion with a dark reputation and a history of unexplained deaths. Led by a paranormal investigator, the group includes Eleanor, a vulnerable woman with a troubled past who soon becomes the center of the house's attention. As the nights wear on, doors slam shut on their own, walls seem to breathe, and Eleanor's grip on reality begins to slip. The Haunting, directed by Robert Wise, chooses suggestion over spectacle, and it pays off. With no monsters and almost no visible effects, the terror comes from psychological tension, camera angles, and sound design. Julie Harris gives a fragile, unforgettable performance as Eleanor, and the film's ambiguous ending has kept viewers debating for decades. It's proof that what you don't see can be far more disturbing than anything shown outright. While vacationing in Rome, American tourist Nora Davis finds herself caught in a nightmare that feels pulled from the pages of her favorite crime novels. First, someone slips contraband into her luggage. Then, the aunt she's staying with suddenly dies. And one night, she witnesses a murder, or thinks she does. No one believes her, and soon Nora begins to suspect she's the next target. The Girl Who Knew Too Much is often credited as the first true giallo, a uniquely Italian blend of horror, mystery, and stylized violence. Directed by Mario Bava, it laid the foundation for a whole wave of genre films that would follow in the 70s. Though lighter in tone, it still delivers suspense, paranoia, and striking black and white cinematography that captures both the charm and danger of Rome at night.
And now a few words about vampires.
Black Sabbath is a three-part anthology that dives into different shades of terror, and each one leaves its mark. The first story follows a woman tormented by threatening phone calls from a mysterious stalker. The second features a chilling tale of vampirism within a cursed family. And the third follows a nurse who steals a ring from a corpse, only to find herself haunted by what she took. Directed by Mario Bava and hosted by the legendary Boris Karloff, the film is a masterclass in tone and tension. Each segment has its own visual style and mood, from psychological suspense to supernatural horror. Though it struggled at the box office on release, Black Sabbath has since earned a cult following and is now seen as a major influence on later anthology films like Creepshow and Trilogy of Terror. It's stylish, eerie, and full of unforgettable imagery. Barbara and her brother Johnny arrive at a remote cemetery just before nightfall and are suddenly attacked by a pale, silent man. Barbara escapes to a nearby farmhouse where a small group of strangers has also taken shelter. But the dead are rising across the countryside, and they're not staying buried. Night of the Living Dead was made on a tiny budget by first-time director George A. Romero, but it reshaped horror overnight. The film's raw, documentary-like style and bleak ending shocked audiences, while its commentary on race, violence, and survival hit harder than most films of its time. It introduced the modern zombie mythos, slow, relentless, and impossible to reason with, and proved that horror could be both terrifying and politically charged. More than 50 years later, it still feels dangerous.